Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another broadcast of the Truth Revelator. We've got a very exciting show for you today. I've got a very, very interesting gentleman that's going to be joining us, Papa Jack Couch. He's a man of God, he's a musician, he's a band leader, and a very good friend to a friend of mine. So I want to go ahead and introduce him and let him give us his testimony, or maybe we'll ask him a few questions. But he's got a marvelous story, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to be very, very pleased. Mr. Couch.
Good to be here.
Good, really good to have you. We were talking before we came on the air, and he was kind of giving me a little bit of his background. But he's been a missionary, and he's been overseas in Belgium, and telling me some very interesting things about that country that I had no idea. I'll let him go ahead and jump right in, Mr. Couch.
Okay. Well, yeah, my life has taken some odd turns, particularly in the last few years. But yes, I'm back in the U.S. now. But until this last spring, I was in Belgium for 2.5 years as a missionary. The organization was called Operation Mobilization, but it's an interdenominational uh, missionary group. It's one of the largest in the world, I guess. But I had basically some friends there, and they asked me to come over and be involved with musical evangelism. Europe in general is a place where Christianity is dying, and Belgium is one of uh, the greatest examples of that. Less than 1% of the population would say that they're followers of Jesus. And so there is a lot of missionary activity now in Europe, even though it's not the classic idea of where missionaries would go. But so I was there for 2.5 years, helping people there to write songs for outreach. Uh, it was not church music, it was music for the world, for secular distribution, but it was all about love and faith. And our hope and prayer was that it would cause people to think about Jesus
Right.
and spiritual issues. And that's actually the music that I've done here in the U.S. I've actually been uh, an active songwriter now for the last 8 years, and we've done 3 albums. We're working on a fourth, and the music is for a secular audience, but it's about love and faith.
Right.
And probably, two or three out of 10 songs we do are actually gospel songs that I've written.
Okay.
But most of them are about just following and living life in faith.
Right.
And so that was what I had been doing before I went to Belgium, and now it's what I'm doing now that I'm back. In the years before that, I was very active in taking a bunch of short trips to Haiti because a close friend in ministry had started a school there long ago. And so I started going there with him 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 times a year. And we did that for about 10 years. And so I've been just concerned in general about wanting to go to places where uh, the gospel kind of needs some some extra help, maybe,
Right. Right.
or more than just the usual kind of applications. So jobs, had regular careers, but we believed that we belonged to Jesus and that He had us out in the world in our regular jobs to live for Him and
Right.
to allow Him to love the people we came into contact with. So my wife and I did that together for 37 years
Wow.
and worked in the church and led Bible studies and youth groups and led trips both inside the country for mission and outside. And so, yes, I feel like I've been kind of on the job for Jesus always, but very little of it has been in a way uh, that I got paid for it,
Right.
but that was not part of what we felt we were called to. So,
Right. And you told me also that you had pastored for a while.
yeah, it was in the years, and to go back just a little, uh, we lived in South Georgia in Waycross for 32 years.
Wow.
And in 2009, we moved to a small town in this area down in Meriwether County in Greenville, Georgia. And 2 months after we moved there, we had a wreck, automobile wreck, and my wife was killed.
Bless you.
And I knew very few people in that area. We had really not had enough time to make a lot of friends. And we had three sons, and they had great lives, but they had moved far away.
Right.
And so it was just me kind of starting life over.
Mhm.
And looking back, I was probably in shock really for several years. But the thing I could not get away from is that the same God who gave us 37 wonderful years together, and we were still very much in love
Yes, sir.
when after all those years. And God had given us such grace and such goodness in all that time. And it was the same God, even on
Oh
that
yeah.
day
Oh yeah.
that we had the wreck. And so I don't understand, still don't understand. That was 15 years ago, and I still don't understand the theological explanation of where God was or where he wasn't.
Right.
I just know that he was still God.
Yes, sir.
And so I just hung on to him. And very gradually, my life was, I guess you'd say, revived. I still had to work. I still had to do the normal thing.
Yes, sir.
And several years later, probably about 6 years later, my pastor in Greenville came to me and asked me if I would consider being a local pastor in the Methodist church. And I had that offer several times in years past, and it was always, the answer was always no when I would pray about it. But this time, the light kind of went on, and so I agreed that I would go through their process of becoming a pastor and doing some seminary work and the whole thing.
Right.
And so I did, and it was about the same time that I was getting back into music. And so the pastor job ended up paying a little bit, enough so that it would finance my work in
Music.
music. So the two things developed together. And until I went to Belgium, I was a local pastor in the Methodist church. Had three churches over 4 years, and it was a great experience.
Right.
And but since I've been back, that has not been the thing that really has worked out. So now I'm back. Now I'm just
See,
doing music. We're making a record, and we have a show coming up, which I'll advertise before we finish.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm sorry to ramble on. So
No, you're doing fine. You're doing absolutely fine. This is just a lot of information, a lot of wisdom, and I just thank God for being able to have you here. Like I said, it was, kind of a surprise to me that we think of Europe, especially as a
yeah,
Christian country. You just automatically assume, and for you to say that Belgium is 1%, and even if we look at our own country, we're sliding backwards in this country as well. People just don't want to go to church, don't want to serve the Lord. Um, I don't know. I know I just keep believing the scriptures, and Jesus is soon to come. That's all I can depend on.
yeah, and there's a couple things, but yeah, in Belgium, every single town and village has at least one church, and you always see the steeple before you see anything else.
Right.
But all those churches are empty.
Wow.
People have just over the last 50 years just abandoned the faith. And here, I can see that coming.
Right.
The body of Christ, though, will always be real and true
Oh yes.
uh, and strong.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well,
But
the
it's
the scripture teaches us that God will always have a remnant. He'll always have
well,
somebody.
and the question is how the institutional church will, that organization, how they're going to deal with the future. And, the influence of the church, like is over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even in this country, the church no longer influences anybody's behavior
Right.
and really does not have a strong voice in terms of spiritual answers. And yet, each of us can be believers where we are, and we can still carry on, and we can still be, Jesus' hands and feet, as
Right.
the
Right.
saying goes, wherever we go. But yeah, the church institution here is actually uh, it's kind of long since lost its effect. That doesn't mean I still go to worship. I still
Right.
attend church. I'm
Right.
still looking for one, but it's just not a cultural force like it was when we were young.
Right.
You
Right.
look. I don't think you're quite as old as me, but you look like you've been around for a couple of
Well,
years.
I'm a baby boomer.
Okay.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
I'm a baby boomer. But you're absolutely right. People aren't raising children in church anymore, so
Yeah.
they don't have uh, that ingrained fear of God or that ingrained love for God like we did. We didn't have a choice. On Sundays we
Yeah.
were going to be in church,
Right.
but it is everything has changed and people no longer reverence God the way they used to, and you can see it in our country, the behaviors of the people. So
Yeah.
I don't know how long you've been playing music, Mr. Couch.
Uh, it's it's kind of it's an odd uh, situation. I started playing when I was very young, when I was 13 years old, and it was during the first folk revival when Bob Dylan was first starting out, and folk music was on the radio. And I played basically through the time I was in college in Atlanta
Uh-huh.
and worked at the original Underground Atlanta when it was
Real
actually
wow.
underground, and several other places around Atlanta. And I wanted to become a songwriter. and I ended up with an opportunity to play a couple songs for Johnny Cash in
Wow.
1970 when he was doing his TV show.
Mhm.
And he was very encouraging, and it made me think that I could be a songwriter when I
Okay.
finished college.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, I met a young woman named Ann, and my plan changed to chase her down
Right.
and then go to Nashville and be a songwriter. And I did end up catching her, but we did not end up
In Nashville.
moving to Nashville. And so over the years, I played some in church, but very little.
Mhm.
And in the late 80s, I had a chance to become a staff writer for a publishing company in Nashville. And I got close to getting that job, but I had to stop because it was just taking too much time away from my family.
Right. Yes, sir.
And it was a great decision. I never regretted that. Uh, and so when we moved to this area, I had given up music.
Oh, wow.
And but it was a series of interactions and relationships that kind of brought it back to me. And so I had a background, and finally in 2016, I went wandering back to an open mic at Eddie's Attic, which is known for having a very good level of uh, people playing.
Mhm.
And it was not terrible.
Right.
And so I kept coming back, and I began to get to know people and write music again.
Right.
So it worked out. So
Yes, sir.
now I do that pretty much full time.
Wow. Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, I appreciate your time, Mr. Cal. If you want to go ahead and plug your show, I'm gonna see if I can carve out some time. Come see you guys.
Yeah, two things. One, you can find our music on all the streaming services like Spotify
Okay.
under Papa Jack Couch. And our show is at Eddie's Attic. It's with our full band. Micah Cadwell plays guitar. Matt Walkup plays keyboard. They're both very well known around Atlanta
Mhm.
and are great musicians. And they somehow have agreed over several years to play my songs and
Right.
act like they're in my band when they also have their own bands. But anyway, that will be on September 25th,
Okay.
which is Wednesday night at Eddie's Attic. And you can go to their website and just look down their calendar and find us. It's September 25th, and the tickets are cheap. They're only like $12.
Okay. Eddie's Attic. Now, where's Eddie's Attic located?
It's right in the middle of Decatur.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Okay.
it's back behind the old courthouse.
All
Uh,
right.
so yeah, it's very easy to find, and it's been there a while. That's the place where John Mayer got his start, and a bunch of other people. So
Okay.
it's a great place for listening to music.
Good. It sounds like a wonderful place. Well, again, I thank you for your time, Mr. Couch. It's been very, very inspiring for me. Uh, a like I said, beginner slash wannabe intermediate guitarist, and I just love music and I love worship music. Um, but it was absolutely
Well,
wonderful. I appreciate
if you saw me play, you would realize that you can go a long way in music
you.
without being great on the guitar. Yeah,
I'm gonna do my very very best to put y'all on the calendar and get up there to Eddie's Attic because I've been
right.
telling Mike I was gonna come see him play anyway, so that'd be
Cool.
a really good opportunity.
We'd love to see you there.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, Mr. Couch.
and bless what you're doing. Yeah, you know, we just called to be the light wherever we are, you
Yes,
know.
sir. Well, it was very inspiring. Like I said, I was just talking to Mike, and he's like, "Man, I know somebody that you would have a good conversation with," and he put me in touch with you, and I'm so glad he did. It was really wonderful,
He's a
wonderful to
good
have you on
man.
the show. Yes, sir. All right, thanks again, Mr. Couch.
Thank you.
I'm gonna do my outro.
All right.
Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into the Truth Revelator. If you please hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share so that we'll be able to continue bringing you content like this. Thanks again.